And don't you think that that house, this just came to me, so maybe this isn't right, but I'm going to say it anyway. So don't you think that house with the wreath in the door and the pumpkin on the porch, but when you open the door, there's laundry on the couch and there's dishes in the sink. Maybe that's like us. Like on the outside, we want to look like we have it all together. Ooh, this is pretty good. We want to look like we have it all together on the outside, but on the inside, we're still all messed up. There's self-doubt. There's all those things on the inside of all of us. We all have that. We all have those insecurities, self-doubts, wondering, what are they thinking? What am I doing? Am I really smart enough to do this? Can I really write a book? I don't know what I'm doing. All those things. That's the reality. On the outside, we try to look like, professional or like we've got it all together, but I just gave up all that. So I just have to be me. And that's good. That's why the cover of the book looks like me, face down in the grass, like I looked many days of my life, just thinking like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like just the amount of shoes and sports equipment that were strewn everywhere, or the amount of milk we went through, or all those things. But those were honestly the best days. I wouldn't have said it at the time.
Everyone, welcome to Living Next Chapter. I have a fellow Canadian in my province, not too far from my place, really, joining me today. And we're going to talk about all things authorship, writing a book. We're going to talk about pink boots. We're going to talk about a lot of great things today. And my guest is on a lot of podcasts. So if you've seen this name before, it's the same person. Tess Scott's here with me today. Welcome, Tess. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's fun. It's always fun. I love being able to share my story on podcasts. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome to have you here. Okay, so you've done many, many podcasts. Any interesting questions that have come up to you from the host and you're like, oh, wow, that's a new one?
Yeah, what surprises me more than an interesting question is that our conversation can be like, I can think it's going to go one way, and then it just pivots and goes a totally different way, which is always fun, right? It's always fun and funny. I love making people laugh and kind of think about themselves. So no matter what the questions are, the conversation's always fun.
Awesome. Okay. So if you're watching this video and you can see behind us, there's a little wall unit there. And in the middle, there's some pink boots. Now, can you please explain the significance of these pink boots that stand out so well in the background there?
Yeah. Well, you would think that the pink boots are because it never stops raining at my house these days, but that is not why. That is not why. It's because, so my book, I wrote a book, obviously, called Listen, Sister. Can I show it?
Oh, yes,
Finding
please.
Hope in the Freak Show of Life. So if you see that girl in the grass, and that is me, well, it isn't, but I felt that way, right? Haven't we all felt that way? And
Right.
she has pink boots on. So I've kind of adopted that. The truth is, if I wore those pink boots, they would never look as pretty as that, because they'd probably be, muddy and I don't know, all scuffed up and everything, because that's real life.
Right.
But the pink boots are just to kind of remind me.
Nice. I love it. And you said when you go out and you do events and stuff, you actually have the boots with you on the table.
Yeah, I have a big pair. One of my friends dropped off as soon as my book came out. And she saw the cover. I had a gift at my door, and it was a pair of their Hunter, which is probably expensive. I've never owned a pair of big pink boots. So I put them on the book table at my events, and it's kind of a good visual.
Awesome. So, okay. So tell me more about the book. What will we find when we pick this book up?
So Listen, Sister, Finding Hope in the Freak Show of Life. So it's a collection of short, really funny stories just about real life. And real life for me is, I've been married 4 times. I'm not even a celebrity. Remarried my last husband twice. This is our second marriage to the same person. We have a blended family of 8 boys. So imagine the milk intake.
God bless you.
Wow. Also, right, 3 weeks after our last marriage, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So our first year, the big honeymoon marriage, was, mastectomy, chemo, radiation, and all that jazz. Just life. So every story is funny. And then at the end of it, it just comes back and relates to what I learned from that. What was the lesson in that? Because we can learn a lot in life, even if it's a silly thing, like, I don't know, like one night it was bedtime and I'm telling my two youngest kids, who at the time were probably 2 and 6 or something like that, and I'm saying to them, like, okay, run along and go pee, it's bedtime. And my youngest one said, we don't have to. And I said, well, you have to go try, And he says, no, we just pee there. And I found out they had been every night peeing in the Lego box.
Oh, no.
Now, by the time you're on your 7th and 8th kid, there's a lot of Lego. It's a big box. It's a big box. And when I opened the lid, it was quite evident that this had been happening for quite some time now. And so the upside down Legos were full of pee.
Oh.
It was not a good scene. And so that it was not a good day. And by bedtime, you're so tired. You're just so tired when you're parenting. And these are the kinds of things. But this is real life. So right. I want other people to know that, my life's not perfect either. And no one ever would think my life is perfect if they know me. But nobody's life is perfect, right? So I just want to make them laugh and give them encouragement that we'll make it through. It's just a little thing. At the time, it feels huge, though.
Yeah.
At the time when I was just like, I remember I'm reading a book to them at bedtime and I can barely stay awake because I'm just like nodding off over the pages. And then suddenly I'm wide awake because I'm washing a Lego. So this is real life. These are the days of our lives,
Well, now I'm never going to think of Lego in the same way. This is very creative of the boys to come up with their own outlet. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So your book's going to have a variety of stories for people to read and go through. Tell me a little bit about the feedback from your audience that have been reading the book. What have you heard back?
Yeah, well, I hear a lot back from, the interesting thing is women from like high school age, early 20s, to parenting women, to women with teenagers, because, put on your seatbelt, lady, that's going to be a ride. And then, to grandparents, to retired women, to empty nest, every single age. I've had women come up to me and say, like, I feel like you just get me. You understand what I'm feeling. So, because we all share, and not just women, I've had podcasters who are men say they read it with their wife. At bedtime, we read one story every night kind of thing, or we read it when we're driving. My wife reads and I'm driving. And because it's really light, you can leave it on the back of the toilet and just pick it up, read one story in the middle of the book. They're not connected, like same characters, but you don't have to read one to read the next. Or have it in the glove compartment of your car for when you're waiting in line at soccer practice for your kids to come out. That kind of a book, you can pick it up a month later and read, and it doesn't matter that you've missed a month. It's just that kind of book. It always makes you laugh, sometimes makes you cry, definitely makes you shake your head. But women say they can relate to that because we all feel the same way. We all have days that we feel like there's no hope. We all have days that we worry about our identity. We feel silly, we feel dumb, we feel scared, all those things. So we're alike in those ways. And we're disappointed that our lives are not easier, because they're not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but there's always hope.
I think the one thing too, like my kids are all gone and it's an empty nest situation for my wife and myself. But I think there's, in the early days, especially when they're young, you really kind of lose your identity as a parent, because you're so wrapped up in all the other stuff you're doing that you don't have time for yourself. You don't have time to, like you said, you're like falling asleep reading a good night story. Yeah. Yes, all the time. You're so exhausted. You're just done, right? But those are the moments that your kids will remember, right? That you were there. So I love that you kind of have that perspective as a parent.
Yeah. And I think it's changed. Like, I just said to my husband this morning, because I was frustrated. I still have one son at home who's 19, almost 20. So he's like on the edge of the nest, and I'm coming up behind him and like scaring him, like, off you go, because I've been doing this parenting thing for 38 years.
Wow.
My oldest son is 38 and I'm tired of it. Yeah. I love all my kids, I love all my kids, and I want them to have great lives, not at my house. Yeah. So, I was a little bit frustrated this morning, and I forget what I said to my husband because I lost my train of thought. But I think it was just that I've been doing this for a long time. That's what it is. And when I first started parenting, like all those years ago, I talked to my friends in real life a lot. I went to their house. I saw that there was dishes in their sinks. I saw that their life wasn't perfect. I was talking to them on my rotary dial phone. I could hear that their kids were like yelling and screaming. And so this girl's life is not perfect, just like mine. We're all living in a freak show of life. That's the thing. But I think it's more difficult now because young women and men, but mostly I talk to women. So young women are getting to know each other on social media. That's how they're connecting. So if you're on social media and you're looking at Instagram at this beautiful house with the wreath on the door and the pumpkin on the porch, and you think like, wow, this woman has it all together. She has a perfect life.
Right.
And you feel bad about yourself. I just want to tell you this. If you show up at her house unannounced, there is laundry on her couch, just like yours.
Yeah.
That's not real life. But if we think it is, then when things happen in our lives that aren't perfect, then we're disappointed and we don't know how to handle it. So it's really, really important that we share honestly. I try to be honest and vulnerable when I share with women about what life is really like. Like, I was not happy to be diagnosed with cancer, for instance, or I was, my kids pooped beside the dumpster behind, like, my house is by a grocery store. What? There's always a lot of pooping and peeing stories when you have little boys. Apparently, right? Yeah. But I was in the grocery store. It was just this little village that we lived in that had one grocery store and the library, the kind of little hardware store, and you could get anything you wanted there. You didn't have to go into the city. But everyone knew everyone else. So I was in the store getting groceries, and that's where everyone talks in the store. Like we all meet there, right?
Right.
I heard these women talking, and they're just like, oh, these cute little boys, out by the dumpster. And I'm thinking, oh, that's so cute. And then as I stood in line, I thought, I hope those aren't my boys.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Wait, just a minute. I live right over there. So I went home and questioned them. And sure enough, it was my boys who just happened to have to go at the same time and not be able to make it home, which was like one house over. But those things are very humbling. Those are humbling things, and there's value in humility. Yeah. So I just want other women and other moms to know that we're all in this together.
Yeah. So as a parent, then, why does it seem that we're so hard on ourselves all the time? That we don't measure up and that we have this unrealistic expectation that we have to be perfect? Yeah, where's the root of that?
Yeah. Well, I think the root of it is like lies that we're believing about ourselves and social media. True. Like, that's true. People aren't always honest. We don't want to walk around saying like, oh yeah, I screwed up, or even my kid screwed up. I feel like that's a reflection on me, and people are fake. They're not sharing honestly. And then, there's these lies that come in your mind that say you're not good enough.
Right.
You're not doing a good enough job. You're a horrible mom. Your kids aren't perfect. There's all these lies that make us feel bad about ourselves, but that's not truth. So, the most important thing is filling our heads with truth, knowing what's true.
Right. And and then being the best example we can be for our kids so that they can learn good habits by what we model, right? That's really important. And I think for our kids to see us struggle is also a good thing. The fact that they don't have the same opinion of us that we have of other people. When we look at Instagram, we don't want our kids to think the same way of us, that we have it all together and we never make a mistake, we never fail, we never struggle, right? Yeah. I think if they can see how the struggle is real for us, then it gives them a real taste of reality that they can take with them in the future. So
yeah, I think that's true. And I think it's good for them to see even a model in marriage of not always agreeing, but how to work it out, how to work out conflict in any relationship. I think that's a really important thing to model for our kids.
So tell me, any reaction from the boys at all about the book?
Well, they're boys, So I'm not thinking they probably are going to read the book because
Yeah.
they're not really readers. I wasn't feeling bad about including them in the book because I didn't think they'd read it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but one of my sons, his wife, like when they go on day trips and stuff, she'll read while he drives. And she'll start reading a story and then he'll say, "Oh, I remember that. I remember that." So he didn't get mad at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my youngest son doesn't really know that he's included in some of the stories. So yeah, it'll be fine. I'm not worried.
It's a great conversation starter. Yeah, I'm chapter 3. Well, I'm chapter 6. So,
Yeah,
we
they
can
don't tell
compare
each
notes.
other for
No.
sure. But now is when you learn things like, when they're grown up, when they're in their 20s and 30s is when you learn the things that happened. That's why I can write the book now.
Right.
Because now we're at, Easter or whatever. Like we have a huge family, like I said, so they can't all fit in our house at one time now. So we have Christmas at, my oldest son bought my parents' family farm. So my grandkids are in my bedroom, which they can't understand I was ever young. So it blows their mind. But my son has a big drive shed with a wood furnace and we all go there at Christmas and, it's
Nice.
big. The kids can run around. There's 23 of us now,
Wow.
like kids, daughter-in-laws and grandkids. So it's a huge brood. And we go there. And then in the summertime, one day, I only ask for one day that we all get together. My birthday's in July. So in lieu of that, we do a Minute to Win It championship. Okay. So it's very serious. It's very
I'm
serious.
taking notes. I'm taking notes.
There's a trophy. We
Uh-huh.
split into 2 teams. You can't be on your spouse's team. And we have, the typical Minute to Win It games, and we have some in the pool. And it's very, it's an intense day. This is our 3rd year. And so much fun. So much fun doing that.
Does the winner get pink boots at the end of this?
Nope, they just get
Oh.
this huge trophy, and it's mostly just so they can trash talk the other team. That's mostly what it's
Oh.
yeah, lots of pictures, and yeah, it's pretty fun.
Well, that's a big group too, to have everybody together under one roof and together in one place. That's got to feel fun as a parent too, to kind of see them all and see how the family's been growing and stuff as well.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun, and I'm really proud of them, and I'm really blessed that they're all close. Like they all live in Ontario. Like I'm in Sarnia, Ontario, and they're all within Lambton County. Like they're all within our county, which is amazing to have that many kids so close. I don't know if it always will be that way, but for right now it is. So
Nice.
I really love that. And when we all get together, I mean, not only do they create more stories because of the shenanigans, but also they talk about, hey, remember that time that we tied Cam to the tree and told Mom that he was at his friends, and we all ate supper and we all had more because he wasn't there. And I believed he was at his friends until a few months ago when I found out that he wasn't. So all those stories are coming out now, and I'm learning all the truth that happened.
How long was he tied to the tree for?
A few hours while we ate.
Just a few.
But he didn't even rat on them. Like he didn't even tell me at the time. I'm just learning now, honestly. Yeah. He got the most of the brunt of everybody picking on him. He's the one that was tied to his bed with dental floss. And they said that I had bought, I think it was Tarzan, some movie that just came out years ago. And so they were in the hall saying, "Oh, we're going to watch Tarzan. Oh, it's so good," just taunting him, and they weren't going to watch it, but they weren't allowed. But he was tied to the bed with, they were so mean to him, but he turned out like a really great guy. So
yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
Tell me what kind of doors have opened for you now that you have a book.
Oh, well, now that I have a book, I'm doing speaking, which I love. So I'm going all around speaking to different women at church groups or at community events. I'm doing a fundraiser this month for the Gianna House in our city. And I think that's a great thing about being an author is not only feeling like you're sharing the things you've gone through. I mean, that's what I feel like. Maybe not if you're a fiction author, I guess, but I feel like there's purpose in my life. All this wasn't for nothing. Cleaning that Lego at least is going to help someone down the road. Right. But also I think it gives me the, what's the word for it? Like you think that I have the ability, I can't think of the word for it. I'm an author, but I can't think of words. So if I called you up and said, I'd like to come to talk to your women, because I've been married 4 times and I've really screwed up my life over and over and over again. It probably wouldn't let me come. But if I said, hey, my name's Tess Scott, I wrote this book about my screwed up life and all the things that happened, then you might let me come and talk.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it gives me that ability. Like you said, it opens doors. So I've really loved the speaking part of this career, and it's been really fun.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And people can then reach out to you. If somebody's listening right now and they're like, I need Tess to come to my next event, through your website or somehow people can contact you and book and have you come to their thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they can just go to my website, tessscott.com. Easy to remember.
Easy.
And go on there. And I also have tons of testimonials from places that I've spoken, from event planners and stuff like that, and what my signature message is. And yeah, I'd love to chat about it.
Is everything done in person, or do you also do it virtually as well?
I only do speaking in person.
Okay.
Yeah, I podcast virtually, but actually speaking to groups, I just think I feel like we're done listening in groups after the last few years of lockdowns.
We'll that out. Yeah.
Let's get together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess you weren't doing too many speaking engagements during that period of time as well. So
no, but the timing was great because that's when I was just getting the book published. So those were the years. I actually quit my job. I was working full time at the college, and I quit my job in 2021. Wow. So that was 2020. Sorry. Yeah. Right in that time I was working from home, because of lockdowns, and that's when everything happened. So I knew that I was supposed to share my story, but I don't know if this is a good time to say this, but I knew that I was supposed to share my story, but I didn't want to because I was avoiding it, because, being real and being vulnerable about your life and all the times you've screwed up and all that, like, that's difficult. It's like actually terrifying. Yeah. So I didn't want to do it, but one morning I was getting ready for work, and I felt like my face was crooked. Like I was looking in the mirror and I thought, that looks worse than normal. My smile was all cockeyed. And so anyway, I still went to work because I thought they needed me, and, the whole place can't run without me. I opened the doors. So I went, and when my boss came in a couple hours later, meanwhile, I've been looking at my phone, looking at my face in my phone, going, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. And my boss came in and said, what's wrong with your face? And Dave, no woman wants to hear that.
No, that's not a good opening line. No.
No. So he sent me to Emerge, and right away they started tests and called my husband in, which I didn't want them to because he was sleeping. He was on nights. And by the time he arrived, though, my vision was all blurry and my words were all garbled and I couldn't speak. And they thought I was having a stroke. So I remember thinking, like, God, I thought you want me to write a book. You want me to speak to women. And now I can't see and I can't talk and I don't understand what's going on. Yeah. So I was frustrated. I was scared. I was confused. And they kept me in for 3 days, which, as you know, is a long time. They don't keep you in for anything. No. And ran a bunch of tests. And at the end of it, they sent me home and said it wasn't a stroke. It was a TIA. So just a little mini stroke, little, warning. And I said to my husband, I remember this so clearly. I said to him, I'm so thankful this was just a false alarm. And, he looked at me. He had his arms folded. I can still see him standing in the kitchen. And he said, was it, Tess? Was it a false alarm? I hate it when he's right. Mm-hmm. Or was it a real alarm that you know what you're supposed to be doing? And you only have so many days on this earth. We all only have a certain number of days and you need to get to it. Right. So I think that you need to think about retiring and writing the book and telling the story and speaking to women. And so I went back to work the next day and told my boss that I was retiring, which is the word we use for quitting with no income. And I was done like 3 weeks later and never really looked back. So, and that was in April, and I had a book contract in June of that year. It was crazy. It was crazy. Like, it was just like, I can't even imagine that it happened. I'm not a writer. I didn't go to college. I worked at a college, but I only have a high school diploma. Like, But I know it's not just me, right? Like I know
Yeah.
God told me to do it. I'm doing it because he told me to, and he's going to give me the power to do it because he said. And that's how I
Nice.
look at it. It's not me. I can't do it on my own. And every door he just keeps opening and I'll just walk through them. I don't know what I'm doing over here. Really, I don't. But maybe don't tell anyone that part.
Mm.
But it's fun. It's so fun. It's so fun. I love it. I love it when women come up to me. I had a woman last weekend. I spoke about our identity and how our identity is only determined by the person who made us. And that even though I might say to myself, oh, you're so dumb, you're so old, you're so whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But God says that's not true. He made me this way. And he loves me and I'm accepted and all these things. And so I asked the women to write on one side of the page, on the left-hand side of the page, the things they say about themselves. And then on the right-hand side, the things God says about them.
Mm.
And she sent me this message and a few days later and said, I appreciated what you said at that conference. And when we started out, I had a whole pile of things on the left-hand side of my page. And by the time you finished speaking, I had crossed them all out and written truth on the right-hand side of the page. And I had an affair years ago, and I've been trapped in the shame of that mistake for years. And now I know that I'm forgiven and I can move on in life. Because when we believe that, like if we still carry around the shame from the past, then we don't have any power. Like that we can't be productive. We can't do what we're supposed to do. And so the enemy wants to keep me there, like believing lies, but I want to believe the truth and move on in life and embrace the power of God in my life. So for her to say that, I mean, that was like better than selling 1,000 books. That was just like, okay, all my life, all the mistakes I've made, all the lessons I've learned, if that helps that one woman to move forward, that was worth it.
Hmm. That's the kind of feedback you're looking for, right? And kind of that stamp of approval that you're on the right path and your story matters. And that's the one thing I'm hoping to see more of in the podcasting space. Specifically, there's a need for more women to come to the microphone and share their story. And I know it's a big ask to have somebody come and step up and share their story, just like it is to write a book and to be vulnerable and share who you are with a community. So for anybody that's a new author thinking of writing or sharing content in a podcast or some form of sharing a message, what is your word of encouragement to them as far as getting that story out? Because my biggest thing is I believe everyone has a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our duty to share it. And you're doing that. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Story matters. Your story matters. Everyone's story matters. And it's important that you tell it. It's healing for you to tell your story. And it's probably going to be healing for someone else to hear it. It's so important. And stories are engaging. I mean, who doesn't want to hear a story, like a story? But as far as sharing your story, like your life story, I think it's really important. And I would encourage everyone to do it. Even if you didn't publish it, even if you just wrote it in your journal and in your own, for yourself, it's so healing to write your story.
Nice. So for somebody who's out there inspiring people through your story, what an amazing story you have. Where do you find your source of inspiration?
Oh, well, I couldn't even breathe if I didn't have God.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that God set me on this earth for this reason, and sharing my story it's all I want to do. That's why I'm doing it. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm speaking to women. I mean, I wouldn't have made it through life. And it wasn't that it was always easy. And it wasn't that I did it perfectly, because I screwed up big time over and over and over and over again. But I think that the worst times, like if I think about when my third husband left, and our marriage broke up. And that was one of the hardest times of my life because, I didn't want to go through that all again. I spent a long time with my face in the green carpet of my bedroom, but I can say I'm thankful for that time now. And I'm thankful for the worst times in life because they brought me the closest to God because I had nothing else. So that made my relationship with God the closest. And I realized how much I need him. And that is not just my inspiration, but that's my strength and my power in life.
Love it. Love it. What a message for people to hear and understand. So beyond the book now, has the book opened up more doors beyond speaking for you?
Well, more doors beyond speaking. I'm concentrating on the speaking right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to write another book, of course, because there's always more stories. Like I'm just creating them constantly. Yeah. So I guess that's pretty much it for me right now. And I've been on lots of podcasts, which is fun because clearly I love to talk.
Yeah. This could lead to maybe some kind of coaching program to help women. Is that kind of something maybe down the road it might open up a door?
Maybe. I haven't thought about that a lot. I mentor some younger women and we meet, and that's really important to me. I think it's important to do that and give them hope.
Because you're kind of doing that as a live event in a group setting, but there might be people that will be like, Tess, I just want to have some time in your calendar, and do some life together and get your wisdom in my specific situation. So with all the wisdom and the things that you have to offer, I can just see so many people benefiting beyond hearing you live, having the book in their hands. It'd be great to have that kind of contact with you as well. So
that may happen. I don't know. I would not have said 5 years ago that I would be sitting here doing this today.
Really?
So 5 years ago, like when was that? See, I don't even know my numbers. 2018?
Yeah.
2018, I just was going back to work from having cancer. My dad died that year. I got to take time off and be with him. Like so many things happened in 2018. My son got married, but I did not know, that reminds me that, quick story, on the side of my fridge, there's a card. Actually, I have it right here for some reason. And it has a verse on it that says, I have loved you, Tess, with everlasting love. I have drawn you with loving kindness. I will build you up again and you'll be rebuilt. Again, you'll take up your tambourine and go out and dance with the joyful. So that's a verse from Jeremiah 31 in the Bible. And at the time when I wrote this on this card was the crappy time with my face in the green carpet of my bedroom. And I couldn't imagine making it through the days. I just bawled all day. Wow. And someone told me to do this. So I wrote it on this card and I put it on my fridge. And then every time I walked by my fridge, I read it out loud. And it eventually went, I soaked it in and it gave me hope. And on the back of it, I wrote hope, May 2nd, 2013. You say this without crying. So 10 years have passed. And in that time, my husband came back and we got remarried. My dad died. 3 of my kids got married. I now have 9 grandchildren. I would never have thought 10 years ago on this day that I wrote this, that my life would look like it does today. But there was hope. And if I can bring that hope to one other woman, that she can hold on, because your life is going to look totally different than it does today. And it's hard to see it. You can't see it when everything's black. Then it's worth it.
Yeah. And in that moment, it's hard to read the instructions on the outside of the bottle when you're surrounded by just some of the worst days ever, right? And even if someone tries to speak life into you, you're still surrounded by whatever's darkness around you at that moment. And it's really, really hard.
It is. And it's hard to hear it. Yeah. It's especially hard to hear it from somebody who you think has a perfect life. You've been married for 20 years, your kids are all doctors, your life is perfect, you have nice hair. You can't talk to me about it. But I can hear it from somebody who has been there. And so that's what I want to do. I want to always be real and vulnerable and say, I've been there. I have screwed up that way that you're screwing up right now, or that you screwed up and you can't get over it. I've done that.
Right.
You can make it through. I have walked out of the ladies' room into a whole room of people, not knowing I was trailing this toilet paper behind me, tucked into the pants, into the waistband of my pants. Like, I've looked down at the gym and seen that I'm wearing 2 different shoes. I have done a lot of things that other people would just shake their head at. Yeah. And a lot more serious things too, but I always like to make it light. But to know that someone else has been there where you are and they made it through will bring hope to the next person. And that's the goal.
It adds credibility and levels the playing field, right? Yes. When you realize that we're all struggling in whatever thing's happening to us at that time. And that, back to our original comment that we can't compare our roughest day to somebody's highlight reel, because that's not a fair comparison, right?
That's right. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And we live in a world of highlight reels right now, and they're contrived, they're created. Sometimes they're fake, sometimes. And that's really hard to live up to.
A lot of times I think they're fake. Yeah. So we can start by being real. Yeah. And honestly, being real is easier. So I had someone say to me the other day that she was checking out, it was someone I was on an interview, and she was checking out all my stuff, like my website and my Facebook and my Instagram and all the things. If you Google Tess Scott and see all the stuff. And she said, it's a consistent message across everything. Yes. And I said, you know why? Because it's just real. So if I'm at an event and I walk up onto the stage and I trip on the steps, like, that's just real. If my shirt's inside out, you know what? That's Tess Scott. Yeah. And if you see me the next day at the grocery store, I look the same.
Right.
I'm not going to put on a whole bunch of makeup and do my hair. I mean, I don't go in my pajamas or anything, but it's just always real. And that's easier. That's easier because you never have to put on this air of anything. I just want to be the same person all the time. I am who I am. And I honestly, quit faking. That just be normal. Just be who you are, and people either accept it or don't, but that's them. That's up to them. I can't pretend to be somebody I'm not. And that there's a lot of peace in that, Dave.
Yeah. So one thing I remember teaching our kids when they were little was it's easier to tell the truth than try to remember a lie. Mm-hmm. Right. Because you're like, how did I word that lie? I don't remember how I worded that, but the truth is always the truth. And it's so easy to remember. Yeah. So we would always tell the kids, just tell the truth, live your truth, live the truth, be truthful in what you do every day. And it's so easy to remember. Yeah. Right. So, and it's a hard lesson to learn, because again, we want to put up the facade that we have everything perfect. Like you talked about, the wreath on the door, the nice entryway to the house. Yeah. Everything's perfect, right? Nothing's out of place. And I just think that's really unrealistic, really, when you come down to it. So I love that that's kind of your beginning stage, that everyone just understand this is life, and you have permission to be you. That's important.
Yeah. And don't you think that house, this just came to me, so maybe this isn't right, but I'm going to say it anyway. So don't you think that house with the wreath in the door and the pumpkin on the porch, but when you open the door, there's laundry on the couch and there's dishes in the sink. Maybe that's like us. Like on the outside, we want to look like we have it all together. Ooh, this is pretty good. We want to look like we have it all together on the outside. Yeah. But on the inside, we're still all messed up.
There's pee in our Lego. There's all kinds of stuff going on, right?
There's pee in our Lego, but there's insecurities.
Yes. Exactly.
There's self-doubt. There's, all those things on the inside of all of us. We all have that. We all have those insecurities, self-doubts, wondering, what are they thinking? What am I doing? Am I really smart enough to do this? Can I really write a book? I don't know what I'm doing. All those things. That's the reality. Yeah. On the outside, we try to look like, professional, or like we've got it all together, but I just gave up all that. So I just have to be me. And that's good. That's why the cover of the book looks like me face down in the grass, like I looked many days of my life, just thinking like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like just the amount of shoes and sports equipment that were strewn everywhere, or the amount of milk we went through, or all those things. But those were honestly the best days. I wouldn't have said it at the time.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, when you look back at that shapes everything, and it helps to create the story that you're out there sharing. And I love that you get to share your story with people. And
me too.
It must be rewarding to see people click with your message and connect with you, and give you that feedback that your story mattered to them. That's gotta mean something special to you in all of this, right?
Yeah. That's the best when someone, I get an email or someone on social media that says like, man, I feel like you just get me. And I often have that when I speak. I often have that people come up and say, man, you just get me. And I think, oh, so thankful. I'm so thankful. Yeah.
Beautiful. So again, Tess, if somebody they want you to come and speak to their group and be available, where's kind of your geographic area where you do most of your speaking then?
So I'm in southwestern Ontario, but I love to travel. So I'll come to you wherever you are. And I think I can travel. And you can go to my website at tesscott.com, send me a message there, and we could have a chat about it. I'd love to come and encourage your women. It's so fun.
And then tell me, just before we close too, Tess, the importance from your perspective on getting a review on your book online when somebody purchases it. What does that mean to you as an author?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's the way to push the book forward for sure. I always love good reviews. Yeah, the book is, it's available everywhere. So Barnes and Noble, Chapters, Indigo, all those places, reviews are important. I haven't spent a ton of time. A lot of people talk about getting their book reviews and having the big launch team. I had a small launch team. It's my first book. And honestly, I don't really know what I'm doing, like I said. But having that support of that launch team was really important. And not just for the reviews, but also just the encouragement and telling their friends and encouraging me if I'm having a down day too. Like these people would be like, we had a group chat, and sometimes it was like things happened, like the online company that has books that I don't, Amazon, I'll just say it. They took my book off right before it launched on the Canada site. And then I lost all my reviews of my early readers, all of them. And I was really sad. It wasn't a good time. So there's always things like that. The American ones stood, but the Canadian ones, I lost them all, and lost all the pre-orders, which I'd worked really hard to get. So I had to just come to grips with that and say, that's not what it's all about. Right. I have to concentrate more on the effect the book is having on people's lives instead of on numbers.
Yeah.
Because really, like I said, that event that I spoke about last week with the woman who emailed me, that woman's testimony to me about how that touched her life is more important to me than if I would have sold 1,000 books.
Right.
Although I would have loved to sell 1,000 books. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But affecting people's lives is what it's about for me.
Right.
If I sell 1,000 books and nobody reads them, or nobody cares, or they say, this girl is nothing like me, I don't know why she's even writing, then I've lost. Why am I doing it? So I think I have to keep telling myself, it's not about numbers. It's not about numbers. I'd still like the numbers, but it's not about the numbers.
I love that you know your why. That is, I think that's the first thing that people need to identify, whatever project you're working on. So why am I doing this? And how do I know what success is? Yeah. For you, it's that one person. Yeah. So if one person buys the book and their life is impacted, you've met your goal. And that's like, instead of having again, going back to like Instagram and having 100,000 followers, whatever that means, and they never interact with you and they're a silent audience, you're like, am I having an impact? And no one's getting back to you. You have no idea. You're like, as a podcaster, you talk into a microphone, it goes out in the world. You're like, I know there's numbers. I can see I've sold a book or I've had a listen, but I'm not hearing anything. Am I impacting anyone? And when that happens, that email comes or somebody walks up to your table to check out the Pink Boots and talk to you about your book. That's kind of means something, right?
It's a great feeling. I send out a newsletter every other week, but I've been told I should do it every week. And so we'll see about that. But I do send out a newsletter, and I often get people that reply to it and say how that, oh, that story was so funny, or, oh, how it affected them. And that's like fuel. It's like gasoline, which is expensive, by the way. But my cars are both diesel. Anyway, it's like fuel to your soul, just to give you that little oomph to keep going.
Yeah.
I love that. If you're reading someone's newsletter and it means something to you, send a reply and say, like, this really touched me today, to encourage that person, because we all need encouragement.
The test for the woman that's listening today, and she's where you were, and she doesn't have something handwritten on the fridge to read every day and remind her on how to refocus. What would you tell her to write today on that card and pin up on the fridge today? What message should she be reading today?
I would write, I am loved. That's what I would write, and write the date on the back of it. And that's important. And you know what? Go on my website, hit contact, and send me an email, and I'll encourage you today. I would love to do that. Just send me a personal email, and we'll have a conversation. I'd love to encourage you today.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have such a great heart. Mm-hmm. It's people like you, Tess, that the book is not the end goal. It's the starting point to open a conversation to help people.
Yeah.
Right. Again, you're not here to sell a bazillion books, even though we want to. But the book is a door that opens the communication to an audience and connects you with a reader or a listener when you're speaking live. That's the way to use a book properly, I think. I think so. And imagine if we lived this whole life and all the cleaning up the pee and the Lego and all the other stuff for nothing. And it meant nothing to anybody. And it didn't encourage anyone coming after us. And then it was over and that was it. Like, how sad is that? How sad is that? There is more to it. Yeah. Get out there, share your story.
Yes. Write
down your thoughts and be encouraged.
Yeah.
Right. And encourage somebody along the way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you're doing. And I really appreciate having you on the podcast. It's great, Tess.
Thanks.
It's amazing. So everyone, you are loved. Write it down. Put it up there. Send Tess a message today and let her know that you would just like a few moments of her time. And I know Tess will respond for sure.
For sure I will. I'd love that. And if you're wondering, if you're listening to this right now and you're wondering if your life is also a freak show, in the show notes, Dave can put this link, 10 signs that your life is a freak show. And I'll send you that free PDF today to make you smile.
It's a freak show. I'm writing it down. Awesome. Yeah, we will put that in there. That's amazing. Yes. Thank you. Everyone, please go buy the book and support Tess. And again, if you're looking for a great speaker to come and speak to your group, Tess has got her hand up. She's ready to come. She'll bring the boots and the whole thing. So, Tess, really appreciate your heart, and your story is amazing. And I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. Thank you for making time for all of us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun. It's always a freak show.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pink boots and all.
That's right.
I love it. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you for being here on Living the Next Chapter. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed having you here on the podcast. Our authors are amazing. I hope you appreciate their time, their effort to make this possible. If you know an author, if you want to recommend an author, that's a good idea. Hey, if there's an author that you really would love to hear about or hear from, if you tell me, if you send me a message, you speak pipe on our website, livingthenextchapter.com, send me an email, go over to livingthenextchapter.com, send us a message. We will forward your message to that author and say, listen, you are being requested to be on Living the Next Chapter. Our audience can't wait to hear from you. You can help shape the show. Yeah, you. You could do that right now, actually. You got a minute, right? Okay, how about you do that? livingthenextchapter.com. I'll see you over there. Recommend an author. Yeah. See you. Thanks.